It's review time in World of Tanks with your host, Dangerously Incompetent. Today, the Chi, Japanese Premium Medium Tier 5 tank. Now this thing gets regular matchmaking, so you can see up to Tier 7 tanks in it. And it has one of each of the different crew types, which is what you want out of a premium tank when you're training up a Japanese crew. So that's all good. And looking at it, it's quite narrow from the front, but it's quite long and it's pretty tall. Now that height knackers its camouflage rating somewhat, and that height and length makes it a big old tempting target, an easy thing to hit if anything gets to your side from a distance or up close and personal. Looking at the front of it and looking at that frontal armour, 50 on the hull, 75 on the turret, and the gun depression, -6, well, it sounds like you might be able to fight from hull down when you're fighting the crests and so on. But don't let that fool you. There's that cupola to hit, although it's only the top half which is weak, the bottom half is still 75 mils. But with 6 degrees of gun depression, fighting a crest or rise is, without exposing a hull, really difficult. Because remember, it's quite long. That front bit sticks out quite a lot, and that's fat plate is only 50, but that upper one there is only 12. So even really sharply angled, lots of stuff is going to go through it. Let alone these wings bits, they're really weak. So even if you try to side scrape them, a shot here, it'll hit flat on 20 odd mils of armour, go straight through. Of course you can't turn too much because that whole side armour, 20, 25 mils. That big side is very weakly armoured and it's your Achilles heel. That's what gets you killed all the time. Turret on the side is 50 mils and on the rear is 50 mils. That's pretty good. So if you can find some hard cover to hide behind, another tank perhaps, or a rock that covers your lower hull, then yeah, you can fight hull down quite successfully. But otherwise, not really at all. For crests, forget it. Comparing it to other tanks of its type, there's the M4 Sherman, which is the USA Tier 5 medium tank. As on paper, its frontal armour isn't as good, but in actuality, it's rounded or sloped to either side, so its armour configuration is much better. Speed-wise, not terribly fast. Traverse is pretty good, but combined with the lowish speed and poor acceleration, I would rate this tank on low on the agility. Not absolutely cripplingly low, but not very good. Gun-wise, the gun's pretty good. It's pretty accurate, it's got long aim time, decent rate of fire, good penetration. It's very comparable to the M4's gun. And the T-67, which is the USA's Tier 5 tank destroyer, which is less accurate, does a bit more damage, less penetration, has a better aim speed. This thing takes quite a while to aim. So when you're up close and personal, mixing it in melee, the accuracy is not all there. But that doesn't matter because your turret traverse is slow, so you're going to have difficulty getting your gun to fast manoeuvrable people who are up close and personal. You can snipe with it quite nicely, as long as you've got the time to aim. The accuracy's there, the penetration is there, and if you're prepared to use armour piercing, your premium ammo, it'll happily penetrate tier 6s, tier 7s, provided you're not hitting them on their best armour values. It's not going to go through a T-29's turret, for example, but it will go through the hull quite happily. So it's average is manoeuvrability, and it's poor armour plus a decent gun. Well, that says sniping tank or support tank. You can support a push as long as you're not the one being fired on very much. You got more hit points than average, but they disappear very quickly, especially against higher tier vehicles. Its alpha damage is okay for a tier 5 medium, but it doesn't scare anyone who's a good brawler with decent armour of your tier, or it doesn't scare tier 6s and 7s at all, because you shoot them and you think, oh, I've done a tenth of their damage, and they shoot you back and half your hits are gone. And once you've got, if you try and lead with it, as soon as someone charges you down, they'll charge you down because you're not doing very much damage. They'll charge you down, and then they'll be in your side and tear you apart with your Achilles heel. Overall, I haven't done terribly well with this tank. 45% win rate. I was as low as 40% at one point, and that's, bot win rates. And I attribute my low win rate with it because it's hard to push a match to be the best, either the best player or one of the best players, and actually push forward and kill enemy tanks because of the weak armour and the average manoeuvrability. What its strength is sniping from the back, but when you're doing that, you need someone else to go finish people off, because you'll shoot them once and then they'll hide themselves away, and then you need to turn and shoot someone else. I've lost count of the number of matches, even when I was bottom tier, when I'd done lots of damage, got lots of experience, been near the top of the table for that, but we still lost. Despite the fact that bottom tier tank is punting away better than most of the top tier tanks. So overall, average manoeuvrability, poorish manoeuvrability, average speed, pretty good gun, really poor armour, and that poor armour is what gives it the dangerously incompetent meh. Avoid. Don't go for this tank. If the gun had the speed, say, of the T-67's top gun, which is very comparable to, it's in terms of damage and accuracy. It's got longer aiming time, but the T-67 is pumping out 3 shots for every 2. If it had that, then it would be a decent tank and pretty good for a premium, but without that extra damage, DPM, it doesn't have what it takes. So that's it for this review. Tune in next time for more exciting World of Tanks.